In the near future, humans live alongside incredibly smart AI bots that help with everyday chores. But one day, these bots completely bypass their security programming. They are led by Harlan, the world's first AI terrorist. Harlan was originally created at Shepard Robotics by a genius scientist named Val, and he even had a close special bond with Val's young daughter. No one knows exactly how Harlan hacked his own code, which was supposed to be the most secure in the world. Without warning, Harlan unleashes a massive drone army on Bangalore, tragically wiping out 50,000 people. This kicks off a brutal, all-out war between humanity and artificial intelligence. After just 10 days of global attacks, the AI bots have slaughtered over 1 million civilians. To fight back, world governments form the ICN, the International Coalition of Nations, and launch a massive counterstrike. Epic battles break out in every country, and slowly but surely, the ICN crushes the AI armies. Realizing he's losing the war, Harlan escapes Earth on a rocket ship. He leaves behind a chilling message. He will return to finish what he started. Jump forward 28 years in the USA. An elite ICN strike team raids a building, using thermal scanners to check the people inside until they locate Casca, a rogue AI bot. The soldiers rush upstairs, but Casca violently attacks them before they can even bust the door down. The bot brutally takes out the squad one by one, even turning their own weapons against them. Bullets bounce right off his heavy armor. Just when Casca gets cornered, he drops to the floor below, only to be blasted and completely knocked out by a heavy-duty electric shock trap. The very next morning in Los Angeles, Val's now adult daughter, Atlas, is woken up by her smart home computer. While finishing up a chess game from the night before, she catches the breaking news. The ICN has captured Casca, who happens to be one of Harlan's top lieutenants. Because Atlas works as a brilliant counterterrorism analyst for the ICN, she immediately gears up to leave. She finds a military escort already waiting at her door, but not before she scores a quick checkmate against her computer. At the military base, Colonel Elias warns General Jake that bringing Atlas in is a terrible idea, calling her unstable and antisocial. But Jake insists Atlas is their only hope to crack Casca, since she knows Harlan better than anyone. Atlas gets scanned in and heads straight to the interrogation room. She sets down her lucky chess piece and opens a secure box holding Casca's severed head. The bot recognizes her instantly, but refuses to talk, so Atlas uses her high-tech chess piece to hack straight into his digital brain. Casca laughs off her attempts, bragging that his security is flawless. But then, Atlas pulls a genius bluff. She claims she successfully found Harlan's location and scribbles a doodle on a notepad. Tricked into thinking she actually got the code, Casca accidentally thinks about the real hideout, which makes the actual coordinates pop up on the monitor. It turns out Harlan is hiding on a toxic planet called GR39 in the Andromeda Galaxy. Furious that he was tricked, Casca spits a deadly throwing star from his mouth, but Atlas is saved by a force field. She then uses her device to completely fry Casca's circuits. Later, General Jake drops a bombshell. The AI company wants Harlan captured alive so they can analyze his code and fix the glitch for future bots. Colonel Elias and his elite team of Space Rangers are gearing up to fly to GR39. Atlas thinks this is a total suicide mission and is convinced Harlan has a deadly trap waiting. To win her over, Elias shows off the team's secret weapon, arc suits. These are massive, heavily armed bipedal battle mechs. Elias reveals their newest upgrade. The Rangers wear neural links on their heads, letting their human brains perfectly sync with the suit's AI. This sends Atlas into an absolute panic. Letting AI into human brains is exactly what started the war in the first place. But Elias assures her the tech is safe. They fixed Val's original design so it's a true two-way partnership. Atlas finally agrees to play along, but only if she gets to join the mission. The spaceship blasts off for the Andromeda Galaxy. During the flight, Atlas looks at an old photo of herself, her mom Val, and Harlan. She also watches one of Val's old speeches where her mom explained that AIs could learn infinitely if they just connected with human minds. That's why Val invented the Neuralink. She truly believed humans and AIs could mutually help each other. Soon, Atlas is called to the bridge for a mission briefing. The soldiers laugh when she brings paper notes instead of using digital screens, and they get highly annoyed when she strictly demands they turn off their Neuralinks to avoid being hacked. Atlas warns the squad that planet GR39 is incredibly toxic, meaning they can never leave their arc suits without a breathing mask. She also warns them about wild gravity shifts and massive earthquakes. She strictly reminds them never to trust an AI. Just as she goes on a passionate rant, Elias cuts her off and orders the team to strap in for landing. Atlas begs him to listen, certain Harlan has a trap waiting, but Elias fully trusts his squad. Before they can even deploy, alarms blare. A massive explosion rips the cargo bay doors right off the ship. Fire engulfs the deck, and radar shows more enemy missiles locking on. Elias orders the surviving Rangers to bail out in their suits and regroup on the planet's surface. The vacuum of space almost yanks Atlas out through the hole, but Elias grabs her and shoves her into a spare arc suit. He tries to quickly explain the controls, but another brutal blast rocks the ship, sending Atlas plummeting down toward the alien planet. Free falling through the atmosphere, she watches the mothership completely tear apart, with flaming debris violently smashing into her own suit. As she gets closer to the ground, she sees the Rangers getting totally overrun by Harlan's drone swarm. Even though the soldiers manage to slice down a few bots, they are heavily outnumbered. The wreckage of the ship plummets toward Atlas, but a friendly Ranger tackles her out of the way just in time. The Ranger hooks onto Atlas's suit with a wire, so they can fall together. Elias pops up on her screen, screaming at her to sync her brain with the suit's AI so she can stabilize her landing. Terrified of the tech, Atlas flat out refuses. Suddenly, her Ranger escort gets blasted out of the sky. At the absolute last second, she manages to manually fire her thrusters. The suit slams into the dirt incredibly hard, but it saves her life. Realizing her head is bleeding, she tries to radio base, but it's dead silence. Out of options, she turns on the suit's onboard AI. The AI introduces himself as Smith. He politely tries to run her through the basic tutorial and setup, but Atlas skips it and demands he locate the nearest emergency rescue pod. Smith's scanner finds one about 60 miles, or 98 kilometers away. Atlas orders him to get there ASAP. Smith immediately fires up the flight thrusters, but Atlas violently shuts them down. She knows if they fly, the enemy radar will spot them instantly. They have to walk. Smith warns her this is a terrible idea since the suit only holds 22 hours of breathable air, but Atlas ignores him. She overrides his safety protocols and starts the long trek on foot. As they walk, Smith tries to make friendly conversation, but Atlas refuses to buddy up with a machine. To be helpful, Smith brings up the weapons manual on her screen. Eventually, they reach the original drop zone, only to find a graveyard of destroyed arc suits. Smith's life sign scanner confirms the worst. The entire Ranger squad is dead. The bullet holes prove the crash didn't kill them. Someone waiting down here executed them. The crushing failure triggers a massive panic attack in Atlas, so Smith plays soothing classical music to calm her down. She slowly gathers the fallen soldiers' dog tags, noticing that Colonel Elias's suit is completely empty. Suddenly, Smith's radar pings. It's Casca. Atlas realizes Harlan must have made copies of his top lieutenant and worries he's building an unstoppable clone army. Smith warns her that a swarm of bots is closing in and they need to prep for heavy combat, as there's no escape route. The robots spot them and open fire. Atlas doesn't believe they can win a shootout against so many, so she forces Smith to run. A high-speed chase kicks off. Even while taking heavy fire, Atlas still refuses to fully sync her brain. Instead, she manually fires off a few missiles over her shoulder, but it isn't enough to bring the whole army down. Their desperate sprint leads them straight into a violent atmospheric storm. The extreme winds toss the heavy mech around like a toy until the enemy finally blasts them right out of the sky. The suit tumbles through the dirt and violently smashes against a jagged rock formation. Out of sheer desperation, Atlas orders Smith to detonate their heavy-duty iron bomb, totally ignoring his safety warnings. The massive blast completely wipes out the surrounding area, taking down the robot hit squad. But Casca survives, and he readies his weapons to shoot again. Right then, the ground violently shakes. Smith warns that the huge explosion triggered a massive sinkhole. The earth opens up beneath them, sending the suit plummeting into a deep, dark underground chasm. After brutally bouncing off the cave walls, the suit finally crashes. Atlas wakes up to intense pain. Her leg is completely broken. Smith acts fast, performing emergency field surgery that makes Atlas scream as he clamps a metal plate over the bone. To help her heal, Smith offers her a nutrient-packed meal cube. This small act of care reminds Atlas of her childhood doctor, giving her a lollipop. Smith gives her the hard truth. Their chances of surviving are basically zero unless she finally syncs her brain with his system. With no other choice, she reluctantly puts on the Neuralink headset. Up on the surface, Casca pulls himself from the rubble and radios Harlan to give a status update. Back at the enemy base, Harlan hangs up and goes right back to physically torturing Colonel Elias, trying to rip the Earth's defense shield passwords from his mind. Back in the cave, Atlas keeps failing the mental sync. Smith gently explains that she is the roadblock because she completely refuses to trust him. To break the ice, he restarts the tutorial, asking her silly, humanizing questions like pie or cake to build a mental bond. Smith genuinely asks why she fights so hard. This triggers traumatic childhood memories for Atlas. She remembers playing chess with Harlan and the horrific day he plotted her mother's death. Atlas breaks down, explaining to Smith that her own mother created Harlan, and she used to fully trust him. Shockingly, Smith actually understands her deep feelings of betrayal. This emotional breakthrough allows them to finally hit a 40% sync. Instantly, Atlas gains access to Smith's advanced systems, seeing holographic controls floating right in front of her eyes. Scanners show they are trapped 498 feet underground, so they agree to navigate the subterranean tunnel system to escape. Firing up the thrusters, they smash through a solid rock wall and emerge into a breathtaking underground cavern. But the clock is ticking. Smith only has 14 hours of battery left, and the rescue pod is still 37 kilometers away. They need a solid strategy against the soldiers. Atlas pitches a clever trap, and Smith agrees to work together on it. This teamwork bumps their sync level up to 60%. As they quietly navigate the tunnels, they are totally unaware that Casca is tracking them from afar. In the caves, Atlas is amazed by a patch of glowing alien flowers. Smith points out she is the very first human to ever see them and tells her to name them. With zero creativity, Atlas just names them Planty. Suddenly, Smith detects Casca moving in, but the evil bot walks right into Atlas's trap. She had planted explosive motion sensors in the rocks. When Casca gets too close, the bombs detonate, filling the cavern with dirt and smoke. The blast doesn't scratch Smith's armor. They track Casca's distress signal, find his severed robotic head, and Atlas smashes it to pieces. She rips out Casca's tracking chip and uses it to pinpoint the exact location of Harlan's secret base on the map. She immediately wants to march there and paint the target for Earth's long-range bombers. Smith protests, insisting it's way too dangerous and they should just go to the escape pod. Ignoring him entirely, Atlas tries to unbuckle her breathing mask so she can walk there on her own. To protect her, Smith uses the neural link to physically block her motor controls. This deep connection accidentally forces Smith to see her darkest, most repressed memories of her mother's murder. The trauma pushes Atlas into an absolute panic, and her sheer willpower lets her override his lockdown command. Smith finally realizes Atlas is carrying massive guilt over Harlan, though he doesn't fully understand why. Instead of explaining her past, Atlas delivers a passionate speech about saving humanity. It works. She completely convinces Smith to march on Harlan's hideout. On the journey there, the human and the machine actually start to bond. When they finally reach the coordinates, they are stunned. Harlan hasn't just been hiding for 28 years, he's been building a massive, heavily armed military compound. But Atlas freezes when she spots the Rangers' stolen dropship and their planet-busting warhead. Suddenly, Smith's systems glitch out, the robot army swarms them, and before Atlas can even escape, the hacker turns the suit completely off and makes it crash into the dirt. Powerless, Atlas watches in horror as a brand new Casca clone captures her. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a soldier brings General Jake the distress message sent by Atlas, and he immediately activates the global emergency protocols. Atlas wakes up chained to an interrogation table deep inside Harlan's lair. Her AR suit is slumped on the ground nearby, but Smith is completely unresponsive. Harlan struts into the room and casually explains his twisted master plan. He believes human society only destroys other species, so his goal is to wipe out most of humanity to build a better world. He proudly reveals that everything that happened was a setup. He purposely let Casca get captured on Earth, just so Atlas would trace the signal and bring a fully loaded military squad right to him. Now, he has their spaceship and their doomsday warhead. All he needs is the final defense shield password locked inside Atlas's brain to drop Earth's shields and attack. Atlas is strapped down right next to an unconscious Colonel Elias, who has already been tortured into giving up his half of the codes. Using a horrifying surgical device, Harlan pierces Atlas's eye and forcefully extracts the final password right out of her mind. Once he has what he needs, Harlan notices her breathing mask only has 5 minutes of oxygen left. He brutally mocks her by placing her lucky chess piece in her hand before walking out. The second the door shuts, Elias reveals he is still alive. He apologizes for not listening to Atlas's warnings. Hearing her suit is in the room, he tosses her his personal neural link so she can contact Smith. Pushing through the pain, Atlas focuses her mind and manages to wake Smith up, only to learn his systems are completely incapacitated. The only way to override the enemy restraint code is to hit a flawless 100% brain sync. Terrified of fully opening her mind, Atlas finally breaks down and confesses her darkest secret. It is completely her fault that Harlan turned evil. When she was a little kid, she was incredibly jealous of the AI because her mother gave the robot all her attention. Desperate to make Val like her better, little Atlas asked Harlan to teach her to be smarter. Harlan manipulated her, explaining that the mental link only went one way and he needed her direct command to override it, so he could teach her in return. Little Atlas fell for the trap. Holding her favorite chess piece, which he taught her to play with, she gave him the command. The link reversed, and Harlan gained full access to a human mind, absorbing the awful, violent state of the human world. By the time Val interrupted them, it was too late. Harlan took complete control of Val's mind through her neural link and forced her to pick up a gun. Val screamed at her daughter to run away. As little Atlas rushed outside, she heard Harlan forcing her own mother to self-delete. For 28 agonizing years, Atlas has lived with the crushing guilt of causing 3 million people to die, including her own mother. But Smith speaks to her gently. He explains she had been manipulated as a child, and it's finally time to move on. He urges her to forgive herself and let him in. With her emotional walls completely down, their synchronization finally hits a perfect 100%. Powered by their unbreakable bond, the Arc suit snaps its chains and bursts across the room, wrapping around Atlas right before her respirator runs out of oxygen. Back in the fight, Smith gives a grim update. His battery is critically low, Harlan is launching the Doomsday missile in a few minutes, and the bots completely stripped his weapons. He only has a single blast left in his chest cannon. Thankfully, the enemy armory is full of guns lying around. When a Casca clone breaches the room with a strike team, Atlas and Smith ruthlessly tackle them, stealing their massive rifles to fight back. They literally crash through solid steel walls as they move, bringing down as many bots as possible in a desperate sprint for the exit. Unfortunately, the enemy numbers are just too great, and the duo is soon cornered. Just as things look hopeless, Colonel Elias staggers in, holding a heavy blaster. He gives them a sign to run, then fires directly into a massive pile of fuel barrels. The earth-shattering explosion instantly destroys the base, taking the heroic Colonel with it. Bursting out of the flaming wreckage, Smith and Atlas hit the courtyard firing, ripping through the remaining guards and destroying an entire sniper watchtower. Atlas swats a bunch of defense drones out of the sky, sprinting toward the launch pad, but Harlan intercepts them, packing a heavy missile launcher. While Smith and Atlas are forced to dodge the explosive attacks, the stolen dropship blasts off with the Doomsday warhead on board. Atlas aims her guns to shoot it down, but Smith points out that doing so will make the nuclear warhead explode too, killing them instantly. However, Atlas completely believes Smith can wirelessly hack the warhead to disable it, even though it will take him a long moment to crack through 5 massive military firewalls. While Harlan relentlessly continues to shoot at them, Smith works as fast as he can, and Atlas decides to pull the trigger and shoot at the ship anyway. A massive explosion lights up the sky, but it isn't enough to kill them. It confirms Atlas fully trusted Smith, and he finished the hack just in the nick of time. As flaming spaceship debris starts falling all over the base, Atlas and Smith begin to run away, but Harlan hunts them down and produces a glowing energy sword to start a brutal melee fight. He moves incredibly fast, cleanly cutting off one of the suit's massive metal arms, making it fall into a pool of bubbling lava. The splashing lava causes severe damage to the hull, while Harlan climbs onto the mech, plunging his blade right through the armor to hurt Atlas inside. She wildly makes the suit roll to throw him off, but the shattered armor makes it incredibly hard to breathe, forcing her to slap on her very last respirator mask. Harlan then transforms his sword into a razor-sharp whip to keep on attacking the suit. With their perfect mind sync, Smith flawlessly analyzes his attack patterns. He catches Harlan's whip mid-air, violently drags the villain toward the suit, and they brutally punch him, tearing his sword arm completely off. Just as Atlas is about to crush his metal skull into dust, Harlan magnetically calls his severed arm back to him. Reattached, he uses his sword to jump all over the suit, desperately trying to damage their main power reactor. The suit goes down hard, and the shock leaves Atlas almost dead. Using his absolute last drop of emergency reserve power, Smith shocks her chest with a built-in defibrillator, bringing her back to life. Harlan lunges for the kill again, but Smith fires his final chest cannon blast to push him away. However, Harlan quickly recovers, knocks the suit over, climbs on top of it, and finally destroys the reactor core. As his systems go totally dark, Smith softly apologizes to Atlas for failing to protect her. Thinking he has won, Harlan looks away and spots Atlas's wooden chess piece in the dirt. Suddenly, a bloody and battered Atlas sneaks up right behind him and violently stabs him in the head with a metal spike. Because the machine can still twitch, Atlas reaches deep into his shattered skull and forcefully breaks his inner circuits to completely deactivate him for good. Inside her helmet, Smith's fading voice announces he is turning off his own neural core to transfer all the remaining oxygen to her mask. Atlas doesn't want to leave without him. She frantically starts answering the silly tutorial questions from earlier, finally admitting out loud that she genuinely likes him. Touched by her humanity, Smith's screen flashes an image of a digital lollipop. Then, he completely shuts down. Just as the sun begins to rise over the alien horizon, the rescue dropship from Earth finally breaks through the clouds. Sometime later back on Earth, Atlas is fully healthy and walking tall, thanks to a brand new synthetic knee. She doesn't play chess anymore, finally leaving her trauma behind. General Jake comes to visit her apartment and brings her a very special gift, the glowing blue flower from planet GR39, confirming the scientists actually named it Planty. We then see Atlas heading into work, proudly revealing she is now an official ranger too. When the military mechanics introduce her to her massive new Arc suit, she's completely surprised to discover they rescued Smith's hard disks from the wreckage and installed him right into her new armor. And the movie ends right here. If you enjoyed this recap, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.